Hello, Classic Crew, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about 5 sports movies with conservative messages. So today I wanted to talk about 5 sports movies that have conservative messages, but before I even started talking about those 5 specifically, I wanted to talk about why it seems like most sports movies are conservative. Because in my experience, most sports movies have a conservative message. Now, I absolutely love sports movies. I think they're usually really good family films, not always, but very often. And they have such a good message that I think is very conservative, which is that it doesn't matter who wins or loses, it matters that there is fair play. That is a super conservative concept. The idea that not everyone is going to come out on top, but everybody is given an equal opportunity to succeed, and that we have to put in all of the hard work and effort to get to the top. It doesn't necessarily mean that we'll get there, but it does mean that we have a better chance and a better opportunity. And I think that it's a really wonderful thing about sports movies is that you can watch a great sports movie and the team that you're rooting for will still lose, but they put in the effort and they won just by coming and showing up and playing by the rules. And playing fairly is what gives these games meaning, right? If you're watching a basketball game and suddenly one player decides that it's okay for them to start traveling and no ref calls them out for it, well then, yeah, that team might win, but they didn't win under the rules. And playing fairly and trying your hardest, those are the things that make these films great, and that's a very conservative message. I also think that there's usually a very strong undertone about family. Again, not always, but it is very common in these movies. You also have the idea of brotherhood, the idea of the best part of masculinity, which is fighting with honor. Those are wonderful conservative messages, and I love seeing team sports. I get really emotional watching team sports and watching the team come together. I know I'm not a man, but I just absolutely love and admire that about men playing team sports. And so today I'm really excited to share with you 5 sports movies with conservative messages. Now, I do want to say that the messages that I'm talking about, the conservative messages that I'm talking about, that's not to say that people who are liberal can't have these values, that they don't think you should work hard, none of that. But these are things that are built into the conservative kind of viewpoint. And so when I say that, that's what I mean. So let's get into it. So let's start off with one of my absolute favorite movies, and that is 61. It was directed by Billy Crystal, and it was a work of love for him because he loves baseball, he loves the Yankees, and this was a story he really wanted to tell. It was actually directed and made for HBO, but you can get it on Amazon Prime. Such a great movie. It tells the story of Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris as they are racing to beat Babe Ruth's home run record in one season. So Babe Ruth hit a record of 60 home runs in one season, and these two guys are now trying to surpass that. The two guys are actually friends, and it is a wonderful movie, and it tells the story of these two men who are so entirely different. One who is a really wonderful family man who just is crumbling under the pressure of people criticizing him, of the newspapers, of all of the kind of attention that he's getting, because that's just not who he is as a person. That's Roger Maris. And then you have Mickey Mantle, who's the playboy, who was not living a very conservative lifestyle, and it ended up making him very ill before he was able to actually complete the race. And I'm not spoiling anything because, you know, this is historical, but Roger Maris does end up passing Babe Ruth's record. He did it in 8 more games. So initially the commissioner had made that a different record and put like an asterisk next to his 61 home runs. But there are a few things throughout the film that I think are very conservative. One is that in the movie, Roger Maris really struggles with being away from his family. He loves his family, he wants to be with them, but he also has this career that takes him away from them. And I just love how much of a family man he is, how much he loves his wife, how much support he gets from her. It's a really beautiful display of a marriage on screen, and I think that Billy Crystal really directed that very well. And throughout the film, I think one of the things that makes it so special is that Roger Maris really didn't want to make this whole thing about him surpassing the runs. He wanted to make it about the team and the Yankees making it to the World Series. And so when he does end up realizing, okay, I'm this close and I have to just push for it, that wasn't his initial goal. It wasn't that that was what he was aiming for. He was more worried about the team. And that is a really lovely concept and something that's a conservative idea, which is that he's thinking about the community before his individual needs, right? If he just wanted to focus on getting home runs, then he could ignore what was good for the team and just keep hitting home runs, and even if it wasn't best for what the team needed. And in the movie, there are times that he chooses not to hit the home run and instead do what's better for the team. And I love that idea so much. It's less about the individual and more about his team and the community of that team. But when he does win, he wins by following the rules. He doesn't have to cheat in order to surpass Babe Ruth's record. He just does it. And that is a super inspiring thing. Quick thing I wanted to mention, which I actually think is funny, is that in the film, this was before it had come out that McGwire had used steroids to beat Babe Ruth's record and Roger Maris's record. And because of that, McGwire's record doesn't really count because he did cheat and he didn't do it fairly. And that makes him less of a hero than Roger Maris. Next up, let's talk about a classic movie, and that is Rocky. I love Rocky. Who doesn't love Rocky? It's amazing. And Sylvester Stallone, the fact that he wrote it, acted in it, incredible story. I mean, I think he wrote the whole script in one night. You should look this up because it's a really fascinating story. And honestly, the story of how the film got made is an amazing conservative message in and of itself of he just worked hard and it was just that good that it got produced and became this huge, huge hit. But in any case, the story of Rocky, I absolutely love. I think we all do. It's the underdog story, and he still loses. And I love that. I love that at the end of Rocky, he doesn't come out on the other side as a winner just because he worked hard. He played fairly, he played as best as he could, and he still didn't win. And there's something about that that's so inspiring. It's not just you win because we want you to, you win because you did work hard. It's you played fairly and this was the outcome. And that is an incredibly conservative message, is that we work our hardest, but it doesn't mean that we're going to get rewarded. It's not about who wins or loses sometimes. It's just about putting in the best effort. And you don't always get to win just because you did that. And I love this movie. I really do. It's so good. And the rest of them are a little hokey, but the first one was very special. So I wanted to include that on the list because, hey, if that's not a conservative message, that you can start from the bottom and work your way up and still hold your own with the guy who's at the top of his field just because you worked that hard, you trained that hard, that's a really cool and conservative message. Number 3 is one of my absolute favorites, and that is Miracle. Miracle is probably the most conservative movie on this list for me, just because it's so patriotic. Any movie that is talking about the Olympics where they're representing the United States of America with a patriotism and a love for their country, that is always going to be a really conservative movie. And the thing I love about Miracle, there's a really special scene where all of these players, all of these hockey players are coming together from different parts of the country, and they have to come together to make up the United States of America's hockey team. And they are all really not viewing each other as the American team. They're viewing one another as people from different places. And so they're much more kind of antagonistic towards each other, and they're not viewing each other as a team until the moment where they all realize, no, we're not fighting for our state or for our school. We're fighting for America. We are all Americans. That is a really inspiring moment in that movie, and I love it. I love how much there's a love for America in that film, how they all put in so much effort, so much work. They're not going to cheat. Even if another team cheats, they're not going to, because they're going to play fairly, and with that, they win. Amazing. It's a miracle, as they say in that movie. And it is one of my absolute favorites. Totally family friendly. You can show it to your kids, and it is one of those movies that is inspiring on so many levels and has a conservative message. Next up, let's talk about Cinderella Man. So that's another boxing movie, and it takes place in the 1930s. Now, it isn't entirely historically accurate. The villain in the movie is Max Baer, and Max Baer was not a bad man at all. And then in the movie, they portray him that way for the drama of the story. But if we're taking that out of play and we're just kind of viewing the movie as the movie, it's such a wonderful portrayal of a man who wants to fight and wants to support his family and wants to play fairly and views it as a point of pride that he'll accept help when he needs it, but then he'll repay it when the time comes. So what I'm talking about is in the film, the main character actually wins a certain amount of money from a fight. And he has been accepting unemployment while he needed it because it's during the Great Depression, and he pays it off. He returns it to the government that helped him in his time of need. He says, okay, I needed that at the time, now I don't, and I'm going to repay it. And I love that as a concept, that he's not too proud to get help in the first place. But then when he can repay it, he does, and he doesn't see it as a gift and something that he never has to return. And that's what actually gives him the name Cinderella Man, is that people see what he did. And again, it's that wonderful thing of a man fighting honorably, being the best version of a man, strong, going to do what he needs to do. He's going to fight, but he's going to fight for the right things and in the right way. And I love that about this movie. Another really great film with a conservative message. The last movie I want to talk about today is Rudy. I'm sure you've heard of Rudy. It is a favorite for so many people, and I think this is a wonderful movie as well. Rudy tells the story of a man who wants to play football and wants to go to Notre Dame, but suffers with dyslexia and then eventually works hard enough to make it into Notre Dame after many, many years of trying and studying, makes it into Notre Dame and attempts to make the team as a walk-on, but eventually at the very end of the film, he's able to actually go on to play on the field and he sacks the quarterback. And it is an incredibly moving story. It's the story of somebody who tries his best. And when he does, he's able to inspire people because he works so hard, and because of that, he's able to have this opportunity. And I think that's a really inspiring story, is that you have to work your hardest, you have to give it your all to even get the chance to make it onto the field once. And I love that as a message. I think it's a conservative message that you have to put in the effort and you can't just wait for things to come around. And that is a really moving story. It's something that I know a lot of you love, and I agree with you. It's a really incredible, incredible movie. So let me know in the comments, which of these movies is your favorite? Do you have any other sports movies that you love because they have a conservative message? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Sports movies are some of my favorites. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please subscribe to my channel and blog if you haven't already. Head over to my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook and follow me there. Hit that notification bell to get notified of all my new videos. Hit that like button. Please head over to classicallyabby.locals.com if you'd like to support my channel, see more of this content, and be part of our community. And I'll see you guys in my next video.